Good people, good people, good people. Welcome back to the Gumtown Podcast, episode 180. I'm Doug B. If you tuned in to this podcast, thank you for your time and your attention. I really appreciate you giving it a shot. Today's guest is the founder and owner of McCain's Photography. I'm looking forward to this conversation, and I'm sure we'll all be inspired by his story. Let's chop it up with Rashad McCain. Rashad, how's it going, man?
It's going good, man. Thanks for asking. I thank you for having me on the show. Had a chance to listen to a few episodes before. I'm really excited to be on the show, and I just thank you for the opportunity to sit down and talk with you today or tonight, rather.
Yes, sir. I sure appreciate it, man. I just want to thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time to chop it up.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yes, sir. Of course, here to talk about all the great things you got going on with McCain's Lane Photography. But before we talk business, let's get to know the man behind the brand. Born and raised in Montgomery, what was your upbringing like in the Gump?
So I was born and raised on the west side of Montgomery. I grew up in English Village, pretty much a hop and a skip from South Lawn. Only child to loving parents, still together, would be 44 years this year in November. Um, Graduated from BTW, man, to high school, class of 2003. I think Aquan, he was a year ahead of me or 2 years ahead of me. So I know he does a lot of work with the show too. So we went to the same high school and everything. And then after that, ended up going to Troy University where I majored in journalism. Graduated from there in 2007. So my life has been for sure a blessed life. Have had the opportunity to be in a lot of different spaces that I never thought I would be in, never envisioned myself being in. And for me, the journey, it's a continuous journey, right? And it's one of those things where you never try to settle, right? You're always looking for, at least myself, always looking for different challenges, different things to take on, and just different ways to make myself better. Photography is something that I've always had an interest in just from afar. And for myself, I've always had an interest in sports. So I'm a big sports nut. Anybody that knows me knows that I'm a huge sports fan, whether it's football, basketball, baseball. I enjoy boxing, MMA, tennis. So you pretty much named the sport. I enjoy watching it. It's just the thrill of competition is something that has always spoken to me. But ironically, I learned early on that playing sports wasn't my calling, and I wanted to be a sports broadcaster coming up. So growing up when I did, Sports Center was the start of the highlight era, right? And Stuart Scott, rest in peace, was one of my biggest idols. He was one of those people that inspired me to want to get in the sports journalism business. And I've always tried to take that approach that he did, which at the time seemed a little bit taboo because that was something that wasn't seen on television before, especially someone that looked like me, being that person on a nightly sports center, just giving highlights and doing it his way. And the life that he led and the life that he lived, led to a lot of respect from his colleagues and his peers. And that's something that's always been important for me, no matter what I try to get into. And photography, like I said, it's one of those things that I love from afar. But oddly enough, COVID was the reason I got into photography or doing photography in the first place. So 2020, everybody's just a lot, at home, not going anywhere. And just to take you behind the curtain a little bit, in October 2020, matter of fact, October 28th, 2020, I endured sepsis. I was in the hospital for almost 2 weeks, and they had to take out a good bit of my small intestine. I still have a scar in the middle of my stomach, which is a daily reminder of how fortunate and blessed I am to still be here. And fast forward a couple months later, it was one of those things where I decided that I wanted to just live my life to the fullest and delve into opportunities that I previously didn't think were available to me. So I bought a camera, and it's been nearly a 4 year journey since with photography, being able to interact with folks that I never thought I would interact with, being able to take on opportunities that I never thought would come my way. So I'm just grateful and humble, man. I know I've said that a couple of times so far, but I'm just grateful and humble for every opportunity that comes my way and just being able to learn and grow as a photographer.
Yes, sir. That's a powerful story. I appreciate you for sharing everything that as you did from your upbringing and your parents being together for 40 years, and that's amazing. Love to hear about the longevity of marriage. I've been married myself 5 years, so it's great to hear people who've made it to 40, and that's just amazing in itself. And also, you went, like you said, you went to BTW, graduated from there, made your way down to Troy to major in journalism, and just hearing you talk about being inspired by Stuart Scott, man, that was the time, man. I'm in the same boat. I just in terms of sports, I realized sports wasn't my calling as well. When I was about
Yeah.
16, I realized I was just gonna go to college and get my degree. But it's okay though. I mean, listen, 1% of the 1% make it to the pros. Everybody, 99% of us not gonna make it to the pros. So that's something that I had to accept at 16 years old. But I appreciate you, man, just for sharing a little bit of your background and how you came up in Montgomery. So I do want to back up a little bit, just in terms of when you made your way down to Troy University. What was that college life experience like for you overall?
Uh, the college life experience. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Those that first year and some change, I definitely had a lot of fun. Probably too much fun. There is an opportunity where, well, actually, let me just back it up a little bit. So, like I said, I was having just way too much fun when I first got down there, and I never forget. I was going back to my. I was getting ready to head back to my dorm room, and at the time they would send your grades to your parents, right? Just for them to see where you were. I don't know how they do it now, but at the time, that's what they did, right? And my dad got a look at my grades, and I'll never forget. I was heading back to Troy, and he called, and he was like, when you get, call me as soon as you get to your dorm room. And in the back of my mind, I already knew what it was about. And when I got back, I joke with people that know me, very well. I have never been cussed out by my dad like that before or since. Basically, the short version of the story is I've invested too much money for you to be messing around like this. And so it was it was my proverbial wake up call. And, being able to be in a space where not that I couldn't do the work, but just applying myself in a way that I needed to in order to do said work. So, um, was able to just lock in and focus and do what I needed to do for the rest of my time down in Troy. Um, I would definitely say it was a period of growth for me and being able to have an understanding of who I am fundamentally as a person. I would say anybody that goes to college or has an opportunity to go to college to do so, because you do find out a lot about yourself. You do find out about a lot of things that you can tolerate and won't put up with. And in a way, especially if you can, well, I shouldn't say if you complete the journey, but you learn, like I said, you learn about yourself for sure, and you learn what shapes you as a human being. You learn about the things that shape, how you think, how you interact with people. College was one of those. For me, college was that time in my life where I got to learn even more about myself and figure out what is the best way for me to carry that on after I leave here. So Troy was definitely an experience. I would, like I said, I would tell anybody that wants the opportunity to experience college, please do so, the good and the bad, because without those things, it doesn't fully shape you. So go to those parties, but work hard, play hard. That's how I look at how college should be. Especially if you're trying to just get the most out of it. So I definitely can say that I did do that. A lot of learned lessons for sure. And I would say probably about 80% of the things that you learn are not in the classroom. And that's just my personal perspective on it. But Troy was a fun time. When I got down there, it was still Troy State. So that that shows you how far back on the time machine it was when I first got down there. And then they ended up, of course, changing it, shortening the name to Troy University. But yeah, college was fun, man. I definitely made some long lasting memories, and it's without it, I don't know like how my life would have been within that time frame.
Absolutely. You spot on with that, man. I went to Alabama State and University, so I know the college life just from the perspective of what you're talking about, just freshman year, partying, having a good time. And I mean, listen, most of us do it. I'm not gonna say all of us do it because I don't want to generalize, but most of us we go to college in that first year and we party, we have a good time and you have a group of people who party, have a good time, keep their grades up. You have people like yourself who party, have a good time, and pops had to come in and get some straightening, and you got yourself together.
Yeah, yeah, man.
I mean,
Yeah,
but it's all good though. It's life,
yeah.
man. Like it's just the ebbs and flows. The most important thing is you listened, you took heed to what Pops was saying. I mean, because you could have easily butt back, or you could have easily kept partying. But that's good that you were able to make those adjustments and do what you had to do to finish up. And also, you said something else key about learning a lot about yourself in college. I can attest to that as well. And 80% of the stuff that I learned as well was outside of the classroom. I think the most important thing, the most valuable thing about my time in college, and I'm sure you can attest to it, is just those relationships that you build with people from all over, from the South, the West Coast, the Midwest, the East Coast, and everybody. We just come together on one campus and create those relationships and lifelong memories.
Yeah, and and I can say for me, man, I'm typically not an advice person, right? Because I feel like everybody has to experience different things on their own. But if I don't want to use the word regret, but if I were to look back and say what is one of the things that I wish I did more of when I was in college was just networking. Because, though, like to your point, that networking, those create long lasting relationships that can put you in positions that you may not have thought about or have your name spoken in rooms that you aren't in. So, for me, once I got out, I think when I was in college, I was so focused on, just being able to graduate and then just get out and get a job and go from there. But I think looking back on it, there could have been more effort on my part to just network even more than I did to so that way you don't feel like you're behind the eight ball. And because I look like what I look like, and I'm sure you get this too, the struggle to get to where you want to be is twice as hard. I mean, our parents have said it all the time to us, or people that raised us, you have to be twice as good to get half of what they have. And like I said, looking back on it, I do wish I networked a little bit more to put myself in positions that may have been a little bit more advantageous for me as I got older. But it's one of those living and learning experiences. Like I said, I'm grateful for all of the things that I have gone through, all the successes, all the adversity, and it's just shaped me for who I am. But I would say for myself, man, it's been a story of resilience and comebacks, man. And I honestly wouldn't have it any other way. Um, there are a lot of opportunities that, we think about it and you realize, all right, I may have missed out on this, or I didn't know the right people to get in this particular room, but being able to get to where you want to be when you do it a certain way, it speaks to a lot of different things, man. And for me, that's just one of the things that has been most enjoyable on my journey.
Absolutely. And you said something very powerful there at the end, being able to get to where you gotten your way. And I totally agree in terms of not being an advice person because I don't necessarily give advice either. I just speak from my experience and I just say, hey, this is what I've been through. I ain't telling you what to do. I'm just saying, hey, this how I played out for me. So so it's one of those things where if you if you follow what I'm saying, if it helps you, cool. If it doesn't apply, cool. Like, but I'm with you, man. I don't necessarily give advice. I just speak from personal experience. And man, hearing you talk about your personal experience, and the cool thing about it, Rashad, is, and you are right. It is. We do have to be twice as good to get some of those opportunities that people who don't look like us get. But it's one of those things, and this is gonna sound a little weird. I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I love the fact that we have to be resilient. I love the fact that we have to build this callous, this tough skin to get there. Because when we get there, number one, we're grateful. Like you've expressed multiple times that gratitude. Number one, we're grateful. And number two, when we reach a bump in the road or we have some turbulence, once we get to the top, we know how to handle it because we dealt with all that stuff just to get there, you know?
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
So that's spot on. So yeah, man, I appreciate everything you shared about your background and college life. So let's talk about present day, what you got going on with McCain's Lane Photography. So I'm big into brand names and the origins of brand names. Of course, I know your last name is in the brand name. What inspires you to put your last name in the brand's name?
So going back to what I was talking about earlier, when I first purchased the camera, I was talking with my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and we were just sitting, we were just at my house at the time, and we were just sitting there talking about what is it that I want to do going forward, because it was something that I had always mentioned about wanting to at least try photography and just see where it goes. And she gave me the impetus to just say, just do it. Just if you have the funds, just buy a camera and just see where it takes you. And literally, I remember not too long after I got out of the hospital and recovering and everything, I went on Amazon and bought a camera and just decided to just go from there. Going back to what I said earlier, I've always had an interest in photography. Gordon Parks will always and forever be my goat when it comes to photography. The way he was able to tell stories through pictures. I know they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but the way he was just able to be captivated with the stories that he told through his photos. Matter of fact, I have a couple books right now that are photographs from the civil rights movement, a lot of which that most people just don't remember or they've never seen. And our story has always had to be told through our lens, figuratively, pun definitely intended, right? It's had to be told through our lens, our way, because there have been so many other people that have tried to tell our stories that don't have the authentic story to tell about us. And I just have always appreciated the fact that we have always been resilient and just been able to tell our stories our way. Like I said, Gordon Parks for me is just that goat. He will always be that person that I look to for inspiration and just strive to be like him. There are a ton of great photographers that I've encountered and just have met where I've been able to learn from them and learn how to be a better photographer and just to always be in that mindset of developing concepts and ideas and how things are going to look. And as far as the name is concerned, to be quite honest, I wanted to I wanted to have something that had a little bit of a buzz to it, but something relatively simple, something catchy, something easy to remember. And the reason I chose obviously my last name and Lane is because as a photographer, I think sometimes, and this is just strictly my opinion, I think sometimes we get bogged down with shooting one thing one way. And being in your lane is is just that. It's your lane. You can create how you want to, you can develop how you want to, or at least I think you should be able to do that. Not to say that you can't have inspiration or that other photographers don't inspire you to do or try different things. But ultimately, when you're behind that camera, when you're in the elements or whether you're in studio, no one can tell you what you see, right? And your lane is filled with your ideas, your vision for things, the way you want to execute it, how you want to prepare. I mean, going back to what I said about sports, even though sports wasn't in my calling to play, being a photographer, I believe it incorporates a lot of the same elements. It's all about repetition. It's all about being able to study and learn different techniques to make it your own style. And photography is one of those things, it never becomes stagnant. And that's probably one of the reasons why I enjoy it the most because there's always a different challenge. There's always something that you can try that's different. Being in a mindset where you're just say I'm driving out somewhere and I'm just like looking around the city. There have been plenty of times where I've just looked around and be like, yeah, I can shoot right here and I can turn it into this and that if I had it set up like this, because just being in that mindset all the time, it's hard to, at least for me, it's hard to flip that switch off. Photography is one of those gifts that I'm grateful that God has been able to give me to be able to tell people stories. That's one of the things that I've enjoyed most about doing photography. And I've never actually been asked what my favorite picture is, but to kind of give the best answer, the best picture for me is always because it feels like there's something else that I can be striving towards. I may not necessarily know what it is at the moment, but once I'm in it, I recognize it and I attack it in the best way that I. So McCain's Lane was just honestly the name itself was just I wanted it to be a catchy name, but also in the same breath it represents being in your element and being able to create art your way without any limitations or having anyone tell you what.
Man, man, and that's a very organic way with how you came up with the name, and just like you said, to your point, being in your own lane and being your own person and putting your own spin and bringing your own special sauce to the photography game. And I think that's a very organic way how you came up with the name, and just hearing you talk about not being able to name your favorite picture and your favorite photo being the next one. Yeah, I would never, when it comes to art, when it comes to photography or music or movies, I would never ask the artist what's your favorite, because I know it's like asking somebody ask somebody with children who's your favorite child. Like that's a
Yeah,
tough question. Like you can't ask no. So
yeah,
I would never ask you that. I would never ask you that question. But that's a great answer though. I mean, like you said, like the next picture. So what go? And I know this may be a loaded question, but I trust you'll be able to break it down and simplify it for rookies like myself. Like, what goes into a great photo? Because a lot of us think because we got phones, myself included, that we some photographers because we got smartphones. But what's really, without giving away your sauce? Like, what's like the like if you can give it to us like on like a third grade level? Like, what goes into a great photo? Capturing a great photo.
And so, it's really hard to answer that, but I'll try my best to do so. So, well, first things first, I don't want to be viewed as a because somebody had to teach me, and I had to be willing to learn a lot of different things, whether somebody was teaching it to me or on my own. So for me, it's about the art of the one thing that I will say that is tick for me is when somebody says, "Oh, your camera takes great photos." I mean, and it's just like I equated to basically having like, if you're on the sticks playing PlayStation, right? Yeah, you can have like the best controller, but if you're not adequate in doing what you need to behind said controller, then it doesn't matter. So whether you have the most high-tech equipment in terms of your photography or whether you're just starting out with a basic camera, I would say the biggest thing is just having a vision on the edge. That is one of the things you have to constantly be in that mind frame to make a great photo. And there are even times where, being on different photo shoots, there are a ton of pictures, and every photographer that I know will tell you this. There will be a ton of pictures that you take, that will not make the final cut or the cutting room floor, or however you want to look at it, because there may be something that you see is like, okay, and this is not what I wanted. This is not the angle that I wanted. There was something going on in the background I didn't like. Whatever the reason. As far as what makes a great photo, definitely you got to have a good vision for what you want to execute. And I know this sounds cliche, but you have to be willing to practice, 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 and practice. And you also have to be willing to take because none of us are experts. I would just say there are people that may have been doing this particular thing longer, but no one's an expert. And going back to what I said about Gordon Parks, I'm quite sure even Gordon had some photos, especially starting out, that may not have been his greatest, right? But it's just about the repetition and being able to constantly practice and having a willingness to create things that are a little bit outside the box. So as far as what makes a great photo, I would say having a vision for what you want. Composition matters. Angles definitely matter. And just having a feel and having a feel for what you want to do. It's not something that's going to be book. It's not something that's going to something that somebody tells you. You have to feel it with your soul and you have to feel it within your spirit to say, when I take this photo and when I edit it the way I want to, this is going to be one of the best photos that I've ever. So there's not really, for those looking for a secret sauce or a secret formula, I'm here to tell you now with photography, there isn't. Because what I may think is a little bit outside the box, it may be normal for that person and vice versa. I've
Mm.
I've had the fortunate opportunity to just, like I said, work with a lot of creative artists, whether it's in front of or behind the camera, and seeing the things that they see, seeing the visions that they want to execute, and seeing their style, what motivates them to be a great photographer, what styles drive them. And it may be completely different from something that I'm doing, but that's not to say that I can't learn and take elements of what they're doing and incorporate it into my work and my own.
Mm. Yeah, that's powerful, man. I appreciate you for breaking that down, and that was very insightful, very helpful. And I know you were saying like the whole cliche thing, but I mean, it to me, it's not cliche. I mean, it makes perfect sense to me. You got to practice, you got to have that patience, you got to do the work, and I know people hear that a lot, but the thing about it is, and also something else you said that was key, and I can appreciate you for saying this, that you don't believe in gatekeeping. Neither do I, because one thing I've learned about it all, Rashad, is like gatekeeping really, it's kind of pointless because if you get the information away, most people they're not gonna follow through. That's what I found, like just in a lot of things. I mean, just in life, like giving some information, a lot of people, it sounds good, they get pumped up, but I mean, the reason why, like sharing is caring, and I mean, quite frankly, most people don't execute on the information. I mean, sadly, but that's been the experience in my life. So gatekeeping is a waste of time. So I'm glad that you don't. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in it either.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like you said, gatekeeping honestly is pointless. And one of the things that I would hear, especially, starting out, just saying that, for example, like this photographer won't do this or that because of whatever reason. And for me, it's all about the work and the craft. And I'm not in a space to keep someone from wanting to learn, keep someone from learning, or that's aspiring or just looking to be in a space where they want to be a photographer themselves. And I'm not that person that's just like, oh well, I'm not gonna teach them what I know because I'm afraid of what how capable they are of being a great photographer. I would want someone that I'm teaching to be even better than me, because at the end of it, it's all about evolution. It's all about taking things to another level. I, equate it to sports, for example. Like without Magic and Larry, there's no Michael. Without Michael, there's no LeBron, and without LeBron, there's no Wemby. So the game, figuratively speaking, it always evolves. It has to, and photography is no exception to that. So why would I be that person that just holds somebody off from wanting to be a great photographer? Because at the end of the day, I'm not the greatest photographer. I just believe that I have a gift that I want to share with people. And if people like it, that's great. You're going to always have your critics, but you can't let those critics keep you from not enjoying what you loved it. Because I think a lot of times especially now, everybody's worried about just criticism and how they're going to take it. You just have to just keep fighting and keep pushing through it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. That's spot on, man. I agree with you wholeheartedly. In spite of criticism, like you said, you got to keep pushing forward and to continue to do you and continue to stay in your lane, like you've mentioned before, and just continue to rock and roll and rock out. So I know earlier you were telling us in October 2020 just that health scare, and just after that, a couple months later when you finally purchased your camera and got the business launched. And man, I really appreciate you for that transparency. And it's so interesting that that health scare. It's so interesting how when we're in good health and everything's going well, it's easy to take stuff for granted. I mean, just getting up every day and going about our day, and but it's not until we face a little adversity that we're grateful for it's not until we go through rainy days that we're grateful for the sunshine, the sunny days, man. So just in terms of that time period, and it actually transitions into my next period. So whenever the next portion of the podcast, so whenever I have entrepreneurs on the platform like yourself, I like to talk about three things: the aha moment, action, and audacity. So is it safe to say that your aha moment to launch this business, to start this business, was it after that sickness, that scare?
So I will say yes and no. Yes, definitely in the sense of realizing that you don't have as much time as you think. When you're laying in that hospital bed and you don't know whether this will be your last days on earth, you start putting a lot of stuff in. You start going into what if, right? If what if I did this or what if I did that? And spending because I got out the day I got out was the day they certified Biden as president at the time. So I do remember that. So I went in the hospital October 28th, 2020, and I was in the hospital for I believe 10 days. Those first, waking up from that surgery and not knowing what's gonna be what's gonna be the next thing for you. Like, is this it? Is God calling you home early? Have you made the impact that you thought you would on this earth? You start thinking about all those. And outside of the fact of am I gonna live, you start thinking about like once I'm out, if I'm fortunate and blessed to make it out of here, what kind of impact am I gonna going forward? And you really just think about that all the time. So I would definitely say that was an aha moment. Well, I wouldn't say an aha moment, but definitely to use the term from another podcast, a pivot moment, right? Another, and you said what was another one for me?
So basically, I was asking if that health scare was your aha moment, but if it wasn't, like, well, you said yes and no. So if it wasn't the health scare, what exactly was the aha moment when you realized you wanted to take your love for photography and turn it into a business?
I would say just having the camera in my hand, having that feel, and having just true artistic control and creativity and freedom to just create whatever I wanted to. Well, I shouldn't say that the hospital scare wasn't an aha moment. I'm not gonna say it. So I would definitely say that was one of my aha moments for sure. Because you don't know when this life is gonna end. You don't know the day. They say you know neither the day nor the hour. Um, the
Right.
first time that I was able to just get out and just practice with the camera, and I can still remember the very first time I went out, I lost my lens cap that I
Wow.
had for the camera. But I mean, it's not in the grand scheme of things, it wasn't a major loss, right? But it was just one of those things like, all right, okay, it's just a nice little interesting story to tell, right? But being out in the town and just being able to capture people's experiences and being behind that camera, that gives you a sense of power. At least I think so. Because to me, a camera, if the story is told right, it can definitely be a weapon. So getting that rush, getting that feel, being behind that camera, and especially the more I continue to do it, and especially the more I can to learn about said things, because I have to be honest, it was one of those things that I thought I could just immediately just transition into and be like, oh, I can pick this up real quickly. But there was a lot of things that I had to learn about photography itself. Basically a humbling moment to be like, all right, you got to really put in some work and you got to put in some time and effort into it, especially if you're going to be good at this, and especially if people are going to give you money for this. So I'm one of those people that if people trust me to do something, then I want to be able to execute it to the fullest. I want to be able to say that when they came to me, there weren't any questions of how good the service was or how good the photos were.
Okay, that makes perfect sense, man. Like those are both great aha moments. Just having the camera in your hand and just getting the feel for it, and just falling in love with photography, just from being out there in the field, and as well as what you was talking about, just the health scare. Like those are great aha moments, and I mean those aha moments are what propel us to action. Like, and good, bad, or indifferent, we all need those aha moments to those aha moments serve as catalysts to get us started on whatever journey we may be on. So after you had your aha moments, let's talk about action. So how long did it take you to come up with a name, get the LLC, and get all the business stuff situated?
So it really didn't take me long to come up with. When I first started, I just really just wanted to just get out there and I thought about it for about maybe a month afterwards. Like after I got the camera, I got this camera. What do you want to do? Is this just something that you just do on a regular, do on an occasional basis? Is this something you get paid for, or is this like just an occasional hobby, something that you just pick up every once in a while, maybe have to wipe the dust off of the camera and just go on about your things. But it really didn't take me long to come up with the name. Going back to what I was saying earlier, I wanted to come up with something a little bit catchy, but something like something as my name, my last name and Lane, kind of rhymes. So it was a nice rhymey name that is like it's something easy to remember. And as far as the photography aspect of it, just attach that with it. Just be like, hey, McCain's Lane Photography is what I do. And as I said, it just rolls off the tongue. The business aspect of it, I will admit there definitely it can be. I won't even say humbling. It can be challenging because let's just be in terms of the business aspect. I don't think I do wish that a lot of people that are asking for either free stuff or very, very discounted stuff had the opportunity to just be with a photographer essentially from conception to execution to post, right? To see all the work that it takes to put in, all the work that it takes to put into a very quality photo, not just one that was snapped on a phone. Not to say that phones don't have good camera quality, because they do, but understanding different things like I said, composition, angle, certain poses, height on the way they stand, all of those look a lot of people. So I do wish that people did have the opportunity to just see it from the beginning, because it's easy. Because going back to what I said, one of the icks that I have, like, oh, when people say, oh, your camera takes great photos. And, at first I used to get really, really ticked off about it, but now it's more of those just wish that you could the overall process, because there's still challenges that I have from time to time. Like, all right, how am I going to execute this particular vision, especially if it's something never done before? There are times where you have to do a little bit of research, figure out things that will work. Look for inspo photos that are similar to what you're trying to execute. So it's more than just grabbing a camera, snapping photos. It's one of those things. It goes back to what I said about the preparation, developing concepts and ideas that are, I don't want to say easy, but that are executed. So I do wish people just the overall work that goes into the process.
Yes, sir. Absolutely, man. And I definitely respect photographers and the grind. And man, just like you said, from conception, taking the pictures to editing. I mean, and I agree. Like people who want the discounts, if they really knew the work that photographers put in with the, like I said, just the editing, and I I have a huge amount of respect for what photographers do, what y'all do. Y'all do some amazing stuff. Y'all capture pictures, y'all capture moments, and then y'all edit them. And yeah, unfortunately, there are some people who just want the discount, want the homeboy discount,
Yeah,
the hometown discount, and
yeah,
I mean, that's
yeah.
unfortunate.
Yeah, and even with the hometown discount, depending on who's asking. If it's somebody that's never worked with me before, I'm like, that's I don't think that's gonna happen. But not to say that I won't do free shoots or whatever, because I have, and it's one of those things where that's even something you're just, whether it's building your portfolio or just getting practice or trying something new that you haven't before, that's part of it. I'm not saying that free shoots should never ever be, but also by the same token, don't let the fundamental base of what, especially if you're looking to grow your business and profit.
Absolutely, 1000%. So that last portion, audacity, it's one thing to have an idea, it's another thing to put action behind the idea, but to put it out to the world to be praised or criticized, that's where the audacity comes in my opinion. And I know earlier you were saying that the missus gave you that courage, that audacity to put McCain's Lane Photography out to the world.
Yeah, and she has been my biggest fan and cheerleader from day one. Without her, I can't. I can definitely say that McCain's Lane photography would not be where it is right now. And even with her and her art, being a makeup artist, there have been different things that I've been able to peel from her and apply it to my photography. And I'm not simply saying this because of the fact that she's my wife, but if you get a chance to look up J. Elise Beauty, I'm telling y'all, she does some of the most amazing makeup work you will ever see. So, ladies, if y'all need some makeup work done, J. Elise Beauty is that go-to person. I'm not saying this simply because she's my wife. I'm saying it because she's great at what she does. So I just wanted to make sure I plugged her too. As far as the audacity goes, I feel like it's in various stages, right? It's the audacity to have an idea that's right. It's the audacity to be on a shoot and have that understanding that you know what for this moment for the whether it's the 1 hour or hour and a half or 30 minutes or 2 hours or however long you're shooting with that person, it's that audacity that you are the best photographer in the world at that moment. Like the space that you're working in can't any nobody can touch you. You have to have that. You definitely have to have the confidence. And to your point, almost just a borderline arrogance and audacity to be like, you know what? I'm good at this. I know that I can put in quality work. This person knows I can put in quality work. And anybody else that is willing to work with me will be able to not only see it from other projects that I've done, but for themselves. This photographer, even when you're finished, you have to have the audacity to be like, when I edit these photos, it's going to be like jaws are going to drop in just in a positive way because the edits have been just A1 top tier. And you even have to have that audacity to want to just work with somebody in the first place, to put your name out there and say, hey, I'm a photographer that's 4 years. Would you mind working with me? Here's some of my portfolio. Here's some of my work. You can't being a photographer, you can't be timid. Like art is not a timid. Art is audacious, art is bold, art is loud, art is that willingness to be outside of the norm. You have to essentially like step outside of yourself to be a successful artist, not just a photographer, because everyone can do the same thing, but are you willing to do something that's different that stands you out from others? And I just think, being a photographer is one of those is the element for me that allows me to be audacious. And it's something that I thoroughly enjoy and will continue to enjoy for as long as God allows me to.
Yes, sir, man. That's powerful stuff. And again, hats off and salute to the missus for encouraging you, inspiring you, and salute to you for shouting her out. And I mean, that's what it's all about, Rashad. Teamwork make the dream work. And I'm glad that y'all work together, y'all in it together, y'all are each other's biggest fan. That's dope.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Absolutely. So you've done great things with the business. I know great things are coming down the pipeline, which leads to my next portion, vision. What are some of your short-term and long-term goals for the business you feel comfortable sharing?
So as far as the short term goal, man, I just want to continue being audacious, continue to try new and different things, new and different concepts. That's a short term goal for me. Basically, just never being stagnant. As far as a long term goal, I would say I definitely want to do a photo shoot with a celebrity, and that is one of my long term goals. If I'm fortunate, if I'm blessed enough, love to be a director of cinematography or a director of photography for a film. As I've gotten as I've gotten older, I that's one of those things. I don't really watch the Oscars in. The only categories I really watch for now are like Best Picture, Best Actor, Actress, Supporting Actor, Supporting Actor. But there are two that I will always pay attention. Best Original Screenplay and Best Cinema. Those are the things that gather my right from a writing perspective as well as artistically. How did you make this movie look and feel? So if I were to have the opportunity to be a director of photography for a film, that would be something that even if the movie itself wasn't the greatest, right? I can always have my name etched in stone and be like, my name was on that. I contributed to it in some form. So short-term goals are just to continue evolving, man, and just trying different things and just pushing my limits and pushing my boundaries. And long term, would love to do a photo shoot with a celebrity and hopefully, if it's the Lord's will, maybe be a director of photography. So those are some things I would really love to do.
Yes, sir. Those are great goals, short-term and long-term, and I have no doubt you'll make them all come to fruition.
Yeah, man. Just really just maintaining the faith. And even if that's not the direction that God wants me in, just, be able to have a willingness to walk where he leads me and really just go from there and let the chips fall where they may.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So as we wrap up the podcast, Rashad, I want to ask $1 million question. I started this podcast because I wanted to highlight the greatness connected to the city of Montgomery. Whether you were born here or lived here for a significant period of your life, be it college, military, or work, you being a hometown hero, I got to ask you, what do you appreciate the most about the city of Montgomery?
So I don't know about a hero, but living in I currently live in Birmingham now, or Calera, which is right outside of Birmingham. But Montgomery was and will always be the city that I call home. It's depending on what area you grew up in. I can remember going to football games with my dad at Crampton Bowl. Those were just some core memories that I always enjoyed. Just having family that shaped me, who I am and what I am. Montgomery is just one of those places that, in a lot of ways, it gets a bad rap for a lot of different things. Some of it has merit and some of it doesn't. But Montgomery for me will always be home. I always appreciate the fact that Montgomery has shaped me into what I am, into who I am now. And I don't know, but like I said, I don't know about a hometown hero, but it's one of those. I always appreciate the city for what it means. Montgomery itself is just, it's a place of history. Being raised in a city like that, I don't care who you are, how young you are, how old you are, it definitely shapes your thinking. It definitely shapes like how you. So I say that to say Montgomery is those places that is in terms of being able to overcome a lot of different, being resilient, having definitely having like tough skin and just being able to have that belief that you can overcome anything. Montgomery is the city, like a lot of, like all cities, that has work to do, has a lot of room to grow. But for me, Montgomery will always be home. And anytime I go back, it's always good to see family. It's always good to see loved ones. And I'm just thankful that Montgomery is home for me. That's really the best way I can put it.
Yes, sir. That's powerful stuff, man. Well put. So, Rashad, how can the people connect with you? What are your social media handles and website?
So as far as a website, they can go to McCain'sLanePhotography.com. The first thing you'll see is my afro, and me holding the camera in hand. So they can go to McCain'sLanePhotography.com. They can connect on IG and Facebook with McCain's Lane Photography. Pretty easy to find. Just look for the logo and you can see my work there. And just look out for what's next. I can't say what's next right now, but just know that even though I may not necessarily post things every day or every hour or whatever, there's always something cooking in the lab. So just be on the lookout for whatever's next. And if there's anybody that needs photos, reach out to me. Birthdays, portraits, graduation, newborn, events, you name it. If the concept is there, it can be. So just look out for me, and I'll just keep doing my work, man, and hope to connect with some people.
Yes, sir. Too easy. And of course, I'll put all of that information in the description of the episode. Hey, Rashad, thanks again for the conversation, man. I really appreciate it.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. And one other thing, is I know this is gonna be released pretty soon. So the Super Bowl. I'm a sports nut. I can't leave the pod without talking to the Super Bowl a little bit.
Okay.
Or bet you want to start with the Super Bowl, you want to start with the Luka trade. Where you want to go first?
It's on you, man. You the guest, man. I'll let you guide the conversation.
All right, so Luka trade, everybody is like going crazy about the fact that Luka got traded to LA. Man, as I'm sitting here talking to you, I still can't believe it, right? Long term, pretty much, it's pretty much been said now that it's Luka's team in LA now. So I think for LeBron, I'm not gonna say this year, but I think after next year, it's pretty much gonna be a wrap for LeBron as far as a player is concerned. I mean, the guy that traded Luka from Dallas, he better hope that he's right. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
As far as the Super Bowl is concerned, Chiefs, Eagles, you got Chiefs going for the three-peat with Mahomes. But, I got to go with the underdog, man. I got to go with Jalen and them Eagles. I want him to get one. I want Devontae to get a ring. And I want Saquon to get a ring, especially for how the Giants basically let him walk out the door. So I want those guys to get a ring, man. And to be quite honest, I'm tired of this shit. I'm tired of it. So I don't want to see Yeah, I'm a hater, man. I don't want to see the three-peat. Like it's cool to be a dominant team, and I appreciate his two brothers playing in the Super Bowl, but Holmes, you got three, man. You've been to four Super Bowls, you got three. It's time for Jalen to get his, man.
Yeah, no doubt, man. No doubt. I mean, and the Luka trade, just I'm still trying to process it, man. When it came across, when the Sports Center notification hit my phone on Saturday, I was like, they got to stop playing so much. I was like, why
Yeah,
they playing like
yeah,
this? I was like, why they
yeah.
playing like this?
Yeah, I say this, man. I don't know if you remember when Chris Paul got traded from the air quotes got traded from the Hornets to the Lakers, and David Stern just stepped in and avoided it. I was like,
Mhm.
if David Stern was alive, he would have avoided this with a quickness.
Yeah.
But but nah, man, it's still a lot to process. I think it just got to a point in Dallas where honestly they had just got tired of a lot of his antics and not him not taking his conditioning seriously as he should. But I mean, what does that say about the rest of the league if he's supposedly been so out of shape, but he's been just busting everybody for like 39-9 and
Yeah.
been a first team All NBA the last 5 years. So that says more so about the rest of the league than him. But I don't know, man. It should be interesting. The NBA, they've been saying that the viewership has been down a lot this season. Really not sure as to why, but it'll be it's an interesting trade, man. This is definitely probably the most shocking trade I've ever seen NBA for. Two All NBA players getting traded. I don't think that's ever happened as far as I know.
Nah.
But we'll definitely see how it shapes out. I still say neither one of them win the title.
Right, no doubt, man. I agree. I mean, like, I don't think either team's gonna win the championship. And yeah, for Luka to get traded, definitely telling that there was some stuff behind the scenes. And I mean, hey, they just like you said, just the conditioning and Dallas had to have said, you know what, he ain't worked the super max that he's eligible for. So
Yeah.
they got him out of there. And speaking of just turmoil and players, so I'm a long time Heat fan, so the Jimmy Butler saga is
Oh
really
man.
it's really interesting right now. It's really interesting, and it's like I'm curious. I'm waiting on the Sports Center ticket to come across my phone when he gets traded. I'm curious. I don't know where he's gonna end up, but Pat Riley might be stubborn enough to not trade him anywhere because he's still under contract. But we'll see about that too.
so I mean, the way I look at it, man, I don't think as much as Jimmy has done, right?
Right,
I just don't think there's any way that you can just let him be on the Heat for the rest of the season because that's just going to be a permanent distraction that is like just permeated just all over the place within that locker room. And
right.
I do feel like because I think the trade deadline is this week, I want to say.
It is.
So if I had to say, I know there were some reports saying he wouldn't take a long-term extension with Golden State, but I got a feeling, man, if Jimmy's not careful, man, he might end up like Stephon Marbury was back in the day. Great talent, but a lot of his antics ended up, with him being out of the league probably earlier than he should have been. So, and
Right.
Jimmy's a little bit older too, so there's that. And it's one of those things where, yeah, you might be disgruntled, but you still got to ball out. And with him and Pat Riley being two alpha males, at some point it's gotta get. And I think by the time this week is over with, I think Jimmy's gonna be somewhere else. But it's hard to say where. It
Right.
really is hard.
Right. No, no doubt. No, I mean, and that's why it's so difficult to, like you said, to your point, it's hard to say where he's going to end up at. And KG was talking about big ticket. He was talking about it last week. He was just saying how just Jimmy's unprofessionalism, how it's going to affect guaranteed contracts. And I see where he's coming from, man. Like, it's the unprofessionalism. And like I said, I'm a long time Heat fan. Jimmy has literally taking Miami to two NBA finals on his shoulders back by himself. I mean, so
Yeah.
he's definitely carried the franchise to those two championships. But at the end of the day, you got to be professional, man. I listen. At the end of the day, I know you unhappy. I know this, that, and the third. I know you want the extension, and Pat Riley is stubborn. He's the Godfather. He. I mean, Pat Riley's he's certified. I mean, he got chips with the Lakers, the Heat.
Yeah.
He had the Knicks deep in the playoffs, so I mean he stamped, man. Like so, that'd be interesting to see. But as for the Super Bowl, I'm with you. Like I'm ready to see the underdog. Like I love the underdog story. And
Yeah.
honestly, I'm a longtime Bama fan, so
Okay,
Devonta,
okay,
yes
same here,
sir,
man.
yes sir. So Devonta winning the Super Bowl, he'd be the fourth player ever to win a Heisman, college national championship, and the Super
Yep,
Bowl.
and the Super
So
Bowl.
yeah, so I'm definitely rooting for the Eagles, man. And I saw earlier that I don't I don't want to misquote who said it, but I read earlier that they want the push tush to be prohibited. But I'm like, nah, stop it. If you can't stop it, don't get mad because
Yeah,
you can't stop the tush push.
yeah, yeah. I know that at some point, I can't remember if it was this past off season or the off season before that, where they were trying to ban the touch. Well, the NFL was trying to ban it, and ultimately they decided to keep it. Honestly, it's one of those things that I have seen it stop on occasion. It's seldom, but I have, and it's one of those things where I do think at some point they're probably going to revisit that again. It may not necessarily be after this off season, but there may be some tweaks to where it's like this particular formation, so many people have to be, away from the line of scrimmage or whatever. But it just really depends. The NFL, I've learned this a long time ago. The NFL does what it wants to do when it wants to do it. And if they're a league that can have essentially an entire season in spite of a global pandemic, surely a tush push won't stop them from doing it. But I just, honestly, I hope for a good game, but I do want the Eagles to take it because, like I said, I'm just sick of the Chiefs. I respect everything that Pat Mahomes has done. Probably by the time he finishes, if he's not the GOAT QB, he probably will be. He's probably top five in terms of GOAT QBs already.
No doubt, man. Spot on, man. Well, hey, Rashad, I appreciate the conversation and the sports talk, man. Thanks again for giving me some time out of your schedule, man. I appreciate you.
All right, man. Appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Good people, that
All
concludes
right.
another dope episode of the Gumtown Podcast. In the meantime, in between time, y'all know what to do. Be blessed, be safe, but most importantly, have the audacity to be you. Go.